Okay, welcome class. Thanks for having me in here again. You guys all remember me, Mr. Nick, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So you guys all are doing the True Confessions of Charlotte Doyle, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
And you guys just finished up reading the entire book Mrs. Kruger told me this weekend?
No.
What?
What? I did this lesson for the rest of the book.
Finish the entire thing.
It was chapter
Uh-oh.
8.
I'm in trouble.
No.
Just kidding, guys. No, this chapter 8. You guys
Yeah.
just finished up chapter 8,
Yeah,
right?
we just finished up chapter 8.
Okay, so we're gonna run over the reviews on chapter 8. I was just kidding with you guys. I knew you guys didn't finish up. Oh, this isn't my book. Whose is this?
Yeah.
Is yours? Do you guys want to open up to chapter 8?
No, we're on chapter 9.
We're gonna do chapter 9, but we're gonna do a quick review over chapter 8, so that way we're all fresh on.
Last
just-
time
what
on
just
True
went-
Confessions of
went down?
Charlotte Doyle.
So, does anybody remember what happened in chapter 8? I remember any significant events?
Zachariah gave Charlotte pants and a shirt.
Yes, correct. And I had that highlighted in my notes because, and we will talk about it later on. I tried the garments on, finding them surprisingly comfortable until, shocked, I remembered myself. Hurriedly, I took them off, resolving not to stoop so low again. So why did she feel like she was stooping so low? Anybody have any ideas, Dave?
She was really used to just being like all high class, first class, and like to put like on like basically like slave or sailor's clothes was just
Right.
humiliating.
Common folk clothes and stuff? What was that?
Improper.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there anything else anybody remembered from the last chapter? Yeah.
Well, Captain Jaggery kept on pacing back and forth, not looking at the sails. He was looking at these ropes and
And the storm was not,
and stuff
but,
like that.
but at first the storm was man-made.
Oh, at the very end.
Oh, okay. What do you think it meant by the storm was man-made?
Somebody's gonna
There's
cause
gonna
a
be
riot.
Okay. All right. See, what about the pistol? Does anybody remember reading about the pistol? Who does anybody remember? No. Okay. Good deal. All right. So there was a couple more things. The captain. I watched him call upon Mr. Hollybrass, or less often, Mr. Keach, to punish a man for some slackness or slowness I could not detect. If provoked sufficiently, the captain might resort to a push or a slap with his own open hand, and much to my surprise I saw him strike Morgan, a short, stocky, squinty-eyed monkey of a man, with a belaying pin, one of the heavy wood dowels used to secure a rigging rope on the pinrail. So he's starting to hit crew, and he's showing his meaner side. You guys remember that he opened up the book? How did it open up the book with the captain? What was he like?
Nice.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I didn't trust
Giving
him.
cookies out.
And to the zoo first.
Not literally though.
And it, yes. go ahead.
Being a real gentleman,
Correct.
Still don't trust him.
making him feel, make her feel.
Being nice and then
Yep. How about you guys over there on the couch? What did you guys think about the captain?
I thought he was kind of like I thought he was nice and kind of like suspicious. Yeah, I kind of like he was hiding his like
Nice to Charlotte, but I feel like we don't really know if he's gonna be mean or bad because he seems kind of bad from.
it's like in the beginning he was making her feel at home. And then he's just kind of, showing his bad side mostly when she's not around as much.
kind of
Slowly
like
coming around,
to
and
the
she's
crew.
And then, because ever since like the round robin part, he's been more suspicious. of
Okay.
everything.
Okay, that's a good point. That's a really good point. The round robin thing. So we are gonna start on chapter 9. So you guys have your papers. You guys want to jot down a few notes from what we just talked about. That'll go in your what I know section. You guys want to just take down 2 or 3 quick notes. It doesn't have to be real official. So what we just talked about from chapter 8, this will be kind of the lead-in. So we're building on our prior knowledge. The dark side of Captain Jaggery. I like that. Have another like 30 seconds or so and we'll wrap it up. Nothing. You guys will have more time to go back later if you guys want to. We're going to add to it later, so make sure you leave a little bit of room too for some more information. Alright, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so based on what we just read and what we've read so far in the book, what do you guys think you guys want to know in the next coming chapters, like for the rest of the book or just the next book or the next
What
chapter?
it means by at first it was a man-made storm.
Alright, you can go ahead and put that in there. If you like one of these ideas, jot it in the middle section of what we want to know. Any other suggestions?
If Charlotte really killed somebody,
That said it in the first part of the book.
Ooh.
The warning.
That's good. I remember that from the beginning too. Any other ideas what we might want to know?
Bad Charlotte.
if Captain Jaggery is a daddy.
He is.
Yeah,
he
he-
showed that
Said he
picture
has
of
a
his
dog.
girl.
He has a dog.
Well, maybe he's lying. He could be lying.
Yeah.
That's true too.
I still don't trust him. I don't care if he puts on
He has
the
that
There's
view.
a picture.
Yes.
Who that mysterious man was?
Oh,
that,
with
in
the-
the
who made the
bowels of the
coconut
boat.
face.
Yeah.
Mr. Coconut.
All right, we'll do 20 more seconds. We'll just write in, jot a note or two in there. Make sure you guys got something wrote in the what we want to know. The what we learned in the last section we won't worry about until afterwards. You guys are doing awesome for me too. I appreciate it. You're doing good with the guests. You guys are always this good with subs and everything? I imagine so. You guys are a good class.
And you need to put a, change that to white and green, and put a white S on it. Then that should be right.
Everybody good then? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're wrapped up then. Alright, we're going to get into chapter 9 now that we've got a couple things written in our what is called a KWL. That's one of my fancy little things that we're learning and stuff. KWL, what we know, what we want to know, and what we learned. KWL. Alright. And anyways, moving on. So when we're going to be reading here, we're not going to be reading to read super fast, and we're going to be reading for comprehension. So I want you guys to understand what you guys are reading.
We don't want to read super slowly, but like.
Exactly. You guys can use your reading fingers. You guys ever hear the term reading fingers?
Yeah.
To sound out any tough words, you know, point to it, start with the beginning. If you guys can't pronounce it, that's cool. I still have pronunciation problems every once in a while, so it's fine. And then we'll also, in your what I know section, you guys can take down any notes that you think might help you throughout this assignment. And it'll just be characteristics. You guys might want to jot down just, you know, what you hear here and there and stuff when somebody else is reading. So if you guys are reading, don't stop to take a note. Just wait until after your turn. Or actually, we're not going to be taking turns. I apologize. We're just going to do, I'm going to read, then we're going to read as a group out loud a couple passages, and then you guys want to do paragraph reads?
Yeah, that's
Okay, we'll do a paragraph read each, well, and then we'll just continue switching it up a little bit and stuff, so that way nobody gets bored with it, because it's a little bit longer section. There's 10 pages and stuff. And I'm going to stop you guys throughout to ask you a couple comprehension questions. So, and then afterwards, we're going to be going into another assignment where we're going to actually be writing a journal of our own. So, you guys excited about that a little bit?
Yeah.
I'll give you a sneak peek. You guys, can you imagine being in a place like Charlotte Doyle, where you're new to it, and you've never been there and everybody's like older. Like imagine being the only girl there or the only boy there. That's what we're gonna get into. So we're gonna brainstorm some ideas after the lesson here.
It's like everybody left and you were the only person on it.
Exactly. We're gonna brainstorm some ideas after this. So be listening to what she's talking about in her journal. So that way you guys can get some ideas of the things you might want to write in there. What is she saying? What are the things she's describing? You describe a certain, like the round robin thing. You describe the round robin, you talk about how it makes you feel. Does it make you scared? But we'll get into that just a little bit more.
I don't even know what it is.
The round robin thing, I will show you because I have it noted. That's when they all sign in there. And it's kind of for a mutiny. You remember that?
Yeah, so they can sell.
They made it a circle so nobody would feel jealous if they did it like a ribbon, so they couldn't put it on top. So that's why they did it in a circle.
Right. Okay, so you guys ready?
Yep.
No bunny ears. You guys open up to page 71. Open up. Everybody's ready. Everybody's ready. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. For 3 more days we drifted upon the glassy sea. The helplessness of it, I could tell, drove Captain Jaggery nearly to distraction. Though the sun grew fiercer, he kept sending the men out in jolly boats to tow the Seahawk for 2 hours at a time in search of wind. He found only more to complain about, and then it happened. I'm going to stop right there. Any ideas? Let's see, who has been? You guys have all been answering pretty good. Any ideas? What happened? Predict what will happen.
The man-made storm they talked about.
Inland storm one.
Captain Jagger's gonna lose it.
He's gonna lose it. I got one more suggestion. One more. I need one more. Anybody fill me in? What might happen? Yeah.
Just a storm, not necessarily the man-made.
All right. I'll take it. Cool. Cool.
I was gonna say Captain Jagger was worse than Zacharias.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That,
Zacharias said he was putting that the creature could build.
exactly. That's good too. Predicting based off your prior knowledge. So okay. It was the late afternoon, 18 days into our voyage, the first dog watch. I was on the forecastle deck with Ewing. Ewing was a young, blonde Scot, handsome, I thought, with a shocking tattoo of a mermaid upon his arm. That and his bearding sweetheart, about whom he loved to talk, fascinated me. I rather fancied sweetheart and mermaid were one. At the time he was sitting cross-legged, quite exhausted. That morning the captain had ordered him to spend the day in the highest reaches of the yards, putting new tar on the stays. The sun was brutal, the tar was sticky. Now an old canvas jacket lay in his lap, and with trembling fingers he was attempting to patch it, using needle and awl. While he labored, I read to him from one of my favorite books, Blind Barbara Ann, a tale of loving poverty. He was listening intently when his needle snapped in two. You want to take over for me?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
This woman hastily apologized for cursing and murmured. Cousins then asked about for a new needle. When he couldn't find one, he murmured something about having to get another from his box in the forecastle and made to heave himself up.
Go ahead.
Knowing how tired he was, I asked, "Can I get them for you?"
You can read a couple.
"It would be a particular kindness, Miss Doyle," he answered. My legs being terrible stiff today." "Where should I look?" I asked. "Beneath my hammock in the topmost part of my chest," he said, "in the forecastle."
Will someone be able to point it out? I should think so, he said. Without much thought other than that, I wished to do the man a kindness. I turned and hurried away.
I'm going to take over now. I had scampered down the forecastle entryway before pausing to think. The forecastle was one of the few areas I had not been in before. The one place on the Seahawk that the sailors called their own. Not even Captain Jaggery ventured there. No one had ever seen, or no one had ever said I was not to go, but I assumed I would not be welcome. We're gonna stop right there for a second. What's in there? What's? Does anybody have any idea what's in the forecastle?
Cray's crew.
Cray's crew.
Exactly what.
Two more.
Maybe another head.
Okay.
Maybe Captain Crackit,
No, Crank.
Kranich,
Cranach?
like the guy who
Right.
got his arm chopped off.
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, so you want to continue reading down at the end?
Is it I?
I think with.
With this reservation in mind, I hurried to the galley in hopes of finding Zachariah. I would ask him to fetch the needle. The galley, however, was deserted.
Since I did not wish to disappoint Ewing, I decided I must go and fetch the needle myself. Timidly, I approached the forecastle door. As I did, I heard muted voices from within. Indeed, it was only because they were vague and indistinct that I found myself straining to listen. And what I heard was this.
I say I'll be the one to give the word to none others. It had better be seen. Jaggery's pushing us hard. How many names do we have? There's 7 that was put down on their mark. But there's others inclined.
What about Johnson? He doesn't look right. He's got the spirit. It won't do. He needs to be with us or not. No halfway. And I don't like that girl always spying. Well, being here isn't anyone's fault. We tried. You mind yourself. We kept those passengers on.
So I'm going to start reading right there for this one. I heard these words spoken by at least 4 voices, but I did not at the moment fully grasp their meaning. Understanding would come later. Instead, I was caught up in embarrassment that I should be eavesdropping where I hardly belonged. It was not a very ladylike thing to do, yet I was in part the subject of their conversation. Let's stop right there for a second. Does anybody know what eavesdropping means? Yeah, go ahead.
It's sort of like listening to a conversation that you're not in.
Right, exactly. So if we're having a conversation over here, and it might be private, it doesn't have to be private, but you can be across the room and it can be intentional, unintentional. Yeah.
You can also, like, if you hear something, you kind of, like, jump in with the conversation.
Right, so that's also, too, part of eavesdropping. If you're good friends, if we're good friends, and you're all my good friends, too, and we're talking about the game on Friday, it's totally okay for you guys to overhear it. It's kind of eavesdropping, but it's sort of overhearing and stuff. There's a fine line between the two, but it's kind of the same thing. Do you guys understand? Anybody?
If they're talking about something, like just a football game, it's no problem about, eavesdropping in a football game. But if it's something more important, like, you were listening and your dad was on, like, a police force or the army and you listened and he was explaining to us what he was going to do in the army, then that's kind of, eavesdropping.
Yeah.
If you're sharing that with someone, you shouldn't be sharing that with someone.
Exactly.
In the first place.
The eavesdropping is more for the private stuff, just like you had just mentioned. So go ahead and take back over and the errand.
And the errand was still to be done. Wanting to do what I had promised, I knocked upon the door. Sudden silence. Then, who's there? Miss Doyle, please. Another pause. What do you want? Came the demand. It's for Mr. Ewing, I returned. He sent me for a meeting.
Emily.
Sorry. There is some muttering swearing then. Alright, a moment. I heard rustling, the sound of people moving. Then the door was pushed open. Frisk looked out. He was a very large man, lantern jaw, his fists clenched more often than as not though potentially prepared to brawl. What did you say? He demanded.
Mr. Ewing wants a needle from his chest, I said meekly. He glowed. Come along then, he said, waving me in. I stepped forward and looked about. The only light came from the open door, just enough for me to see that the low ceiling was fastened with dirty garments. I was accosted by a heavy stench of sweat and filth. Scraps of cheap pictures, some of a scandalous nature, were nailed here and there to the walls in aimless fashion. Cups, shoes, belaying pins, all lay jumbled in heaps. In the center of the floor was a trunk on which sat a crude checkerboard, itself partly covered with a sheet of paper. Along the walls, hammocks were slung, but so low I could not see the faces of those in them. What I did see were the arms and legs of 3 men. They seemed to be asleep, though I knew that could not be true. I heard more than one voice. Mr. Ewing's chest is there. Sorry guys, I'm gonna read for a couple seconds and stuff so you guys can relax, and I'll let you know when we're gonna read and everything. So, Mr. Ewing's chest is there, Miss Fisk said, gesturing to a corner with a thumb. He lumbered back to his hammock and sat in it. Though he said no more, watched me suspiciously. The small wooden chest was tucked under one of the empty hammocks. Apprehensively, I knelt, briefly turning to Fisk to make sure that the chest was indeed Ewing's. He grunted in affirmation. Then I turned back, drew the small trunk forward, and flipped open the top. The first thing that met my eyes was a pistol. I snuck the pistol in because I read this chapter last night, and they spoiled the surprise fully though for you. But, what is the pistol for? Any ideas? One quick idea. Yes.
Kill, Captain Jaggery.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. No, I was just taking the one. I'll get you the next one.
3 words. Kill, and kill.
The sight of it was so startling that all I could do was stare. One thought filled my mind. Captain Jaggery had told me, bragged to me, that there were no firearms anywhere on board but in his cabinet. My eyes shifted. I saw a piece of cork into which some needles were stuck. I pulled one out and I hastily shut the chest in hopes that no one else had seen what I had. Then I came to my feet and turned to leave. Fisk was looking hard at me. I forced myself to return his gaze, hoping I was not revealing anything of my feelings. Then I started out, but in my haste stumbled into the trunk in the center of the area. The sheet of paper fluttered to the floor. Apologetic, I stopped to gather it, and in a glance saw that on the paper 2 circles had been drawn, one inside the other, and there appeared to be names and marks written between the lines. The instant I saw it, I knew what it was. A round robin. Doo, doo, doo. Sounds like a mutiny, right?
Revolution!
Clumsily, I pushed the paper away, murmured a thank you, then fled. I was trembling when I left the forecastle. To make matters worse, the first person I saw was the second mate, Mr. Keach, who was passing on the way to the galley. I stopped short, with what was no doubt a guilty cast to my face. Fortunately, he paid no attention to me, giving me hardly a look beyond his normal nervous frown. Then he continued on. But though he was gone, I simply stood there, not knowing what to think or do. Unconsciously, I clasped my hand, jabbing my palm with the needle. Ouch. Ever faithful to my sense of duty, even in that moment of crisis, I hurried to Ewing and gave the needle to him. Here, miss, he said, scrutinizing my face as he took it. Have you taken no? No, thank you, I whispered, attempting to avoid his look. I am fine. I fled hastily back to the cabin and secured the door behind me. Once alone, I climbed atop my bed and flung myself down, then gave myself over entirely to the question of what I should do. You'll understand that there was no doubt in my mind regarding what I had seen. There had been a pistol. There had been a round robin. With the warnings given to me by Captain Jaggery, and ever mindful of the possibilities revealed to me by Zachariah, I had little doubt about the meaning of my discoveries. The crew was preparing a rebellion. Thank you. Regaining some degree of calmness, I thought over who it was that had been in the forecastle. To begin with, there was Fisk. He was part of Mr. Keach's watch, so it was reasonable to assume that the other members of his watch were with them. There were, I knew, 4 men in that watch: Ewing, Morgan, Folly, and of course, Fisk himself. But as I reviewed these names, my feeling of puzzlement grew. What I had observed did not make sense. Then I grasped it. I had seen Fisk. It was he who had opened the forecastle door, and Ewing was on the forecastle deck. But when I stepped inside, there had been 3 hammocks occupied with men. In short, I had seen a total of 5 men off watch. Assuming the other hammocks indeed held members of the watch, who then was the 5th man? Could it have been Mr. Keach himself? No. I had seen him just outside the forecastle when I had emerged. Nor could it have been someone who was on duty. The captain would have never tolerated that. Who was that 5th man? Any ideas?
Cranach!
Cranach. I said I'd come back to you.
The guy who got his arm chopped off. That's
Okay.
Cranach.
The stowaways.
That's what I was thinking, stowaway. That's a third
The
one.
guy who
I'll come
climbed
back to you
up.
next.
The guy who
That's
climbed
the
up at the
stowaway.
very, very, very first
Yeah, that's
chapter.
the
I
stowaways.
began to wonder if I had not been mistaken about the number, reminding myself that a hammock full of clothing would have looked much the same as one occupied by a man. But the more I recollected what I'd seen, the weight of the hammocks, the dangling arms and legs, the more convinced I grew that I'd indeed seen 4 men. Suddenly, like the crack of a wind-whipped sail, I recalled my dim vision when waiting to board this Seahawk the night of my arrival. A man hauling himself up the ropes to the ship. Of course, a stowaway.
Dun dun dun! Again.
But where could such a man have hidden himself? No sooner did I ask myself that than I remembered the face which had so frightened me in the top cargo when I had gone for my clothing. It had been a face that I had not recognized. Indeed, it was just the lack of recognition that convinced me I'd imagined it. In fact, I now realize I must have seen a stowaway. No wonder I did not recognize him. He had been hiding in the hold, which explained Barlow's dire words about the place, as well as the grinning carving. The man sought to scare me from the place. But having arrived at the conclusion, I asked myself this: what was I to do with my discovery? To ask the question was to have the answer. Captain Jaggery. It was to him I owed my allegiance, by custom, by habit, by law. To him I must speak, and the truth was, in addition to everything else, I was now consumed by guilt and terror, that I had not told him before of the incident in the top cargo. So it was by that time, So it was that by the time I had come full course in my thinking, I knew I mustn't wait a moment longer. I needed to get to Captain Jaggery. Recollecting the time, 3 bells of the second dog watch, I knew that the captain would most likely be found by the helm. Nervously, I emerged from the cabin and went into the deck in search of him. The first man I saw was Morgan, leaning against the starboard rail. He was a gangly, long-limbed, muscular fellow with a fierce mustache and long hair. As he was one of Mr. Keach's watch, and not currently on duty, he should have been among those in the forecastle hammock when I'd been there. I say he should have been because I had not seen his face. His presence was only a surmise. But there he was, on deck, brought to a dead stop. I gazed dumbly at him. He in return gazed right at me. Surely I thought he was there to observe me. This would be a great time for you guys to jot a couple notes on what I learned. If you guys, just quick notes, found a pistol. That's one of the great example of what we're going over right now. Any other quick ideas? What we just
The
learned?
rebellion.
The rebellion.
The stowaway.
Okay. Great. I'm gonna continue reading while you guys take those notes. But there he was on deck, brought to a dead stop. I gazed dumbly at him. He in return gazed right at me. Surely I thought he was there to observe me. For that long moment we stood looking at one another. I saw no emotion on his face. What he did next left me with little doubt as to his real intentions. He lifted a hand, extended a silhouette-like forefinger, and drew it across his own neck as if cutting it. A spasm of horror shot through me. He was in the crudest way warning me about what might happen to me if I took my discovery to the captain. For a moment more I remained rooted to the spot. Then I turned to lean upon the port side topgallant rail and stared out over the ocean, trying to recover my breath. When I had sufficiently steadied my nerves, I turned back cautiously. Morgan was gone, but he had achieved his purpose. I was twice as frightened as I'd been when I'd first stepped onto the Seahawk. Anxiously, I glanced about to see if I was being watched by anyone else. Sure enough, now it was Foley whom I spied atop the forecastle. He was busily splicing a rope. At least that's what he seemed to be doing. The instant I saw him, he looked up and pinioned me with a gaze of blatant scrutiny. Then quickly, he shifted his eyes away. He, too, was spying on me. Completely unnerved, I retreated to my cabin and bolted the door. The warnings had an effect quite opposite to what was doubtless intended. More terrified than ever, I now felt that the only person who could help me was Captain Jaggery. But so fearful was I of going on deck in search of him, I decided to wait in his cabin till he returned, certain that the crew would not dare pursue me there. Cautiously, I pulled the door open again, poked my head out, and when I saw, to my relief, no one was nearby, I rushed to the captain's door, and out of a habit of politeness, knocked. To my indescribable relief, I heard, "Come in." I flung the door open. Captain Jaggery was looking over some charts. Mr. Hollybrass was at his side. The captain turned about. "Miss Doyle," he said politely, "is there something I can do for you?" "Please, sir, I was finding it difficult to breathe. I should like a private word." He looked at me quizzically. I had not come to him in agitation before. "Is it important?" "I think so, sir." Perhaps it can wait until, no doubt is the distraught expression on my face, he changed his mind. Come in and shut the door, he said, his manner becoming alert. Mr. Hollybrass made a move to go. The captain reached out to restrain him. Do you have any objections to Mr. Hollybrass being here? He asked. I don't know, sir. Very well, he shall stay. There's no one I can trust more. Now then, Miss Doyle, step forward and say what's troubling you. All right, we're going to pick back up. You want to start reading?
I know. But I could only gulp like a fish out of water, Miss Doyle. If you could have something of importance to tell me, speak it.
I lifted my eyes. The captain was studying me with great interest, intensity.
Great.
In a flash, I recollected a time when my much-loved brother broke a rare vase, and I, out of a high sense of duty, told on him despite what I knew would be my father's certain fury.
I'm just going to stop you. That was, I recollected a time. It's kind of like I remembered. It's one of our tougher words for the day. Would you guys want to write recollected down on your what we learned section? That's one of our tougher words. I checked that one out myself last night. So what was it, recollected?
The memory of her brother breaking the vase.
Perfect. Remembering a past occasion. I'm going to read for a section and then we're going to switch back. I was fetching a needle for Mr. Ewing. I got out. A needle, he returned, somewhat deflated. Then he asked, where did you find it? In the forecastle. The forecastle, he echoed, trying to pry my tongue. Is it your habit to frequent that place, Miss Doyle? Let me know when you're all ready. Never before, sir.
Never before, sir. What happened when you went there? I saw pistols. Did you? I nodded. Where exactly? I glanced around. Mr. Hollybrass's normally red face had gone to the pallor of wet salt. Whereas the captain was suddenly flushed with excitement. Must I say, sir?
Of course you must, Miss Doyle. Where did you see the pistol? In Mr. Ewing's chest, sir. Mr. Ewing's chest? The captain repeated, exchanging a glance with the first mate as if to affirm something. Then the captain turned back to me. Anything else? I bit my lip. There is more, isn't there? He said. Yes, sir. Out with it. I could not speak. A what, Miss Doyle? A round robin.
Dun, dun, dun.
Switch.
Now it was the captain who guessed. A round robin, he exclaimed. Are you quite sure? Just as you showed me, sir. I'm certain of it. Describe it. I did.
At the already where at marks. Yes, sir. How about you? I'm not certain. Perhaps 5, 6.
6, the captain shouted with dawning glance at Mr. Hollybrass. I wonder it's not mine. Could you see those names they were? And whose names they were? No, sir. I'm not certain I believe you, Snap. It's true. I cried, and to prove my honesty, I hurriedly gave them an account of my experiences in the top cargo, as well as my conclusion that the ship carried a stowaway. By the time I was done, he was seething. Why the devil did you not tell me before, man?
Switch, sorry. Thank you.
I didn't trust my own senses, sir. After all I have done for... He failed to finish the sentence. Instead he growled, so it be, and said no more before turning from me and pacing away, leaving both Mr. Hollybrass and me to watch.
Mr. Hollybrass, he said finally. Sir, call a hand. Sir, what do you intend to do? I intend to crush this mutiny before it starts.
Woohoo!
All right. Great job reading, guys. Okay, we're going to stay obviously right here, and we're going to discuss a few things. Okay, so we're going to run over some quick questions, and when you guys answer them, you guys just get a check mark as completed. So I want you guys to answer these as complete as possible to your best knowledge of what we just went over. And if anybody, if you need help, You can ask a neighbor for help, and then I'll come back to you with a different question. So you just have to answer one or two of them along the way. Okay? Deal. Okay, and then you guys are gonna have to remind me your names because I'm gonna have to put your names down for completion on this and stuff, just to make sure that you guys have completed one
You start.
of the three types of the questions. Ryan, how would you run a ship if you were appointed captain?
I'd probably be like, what am I supposed to do and get me off of this ship?
Okay, so you're not real confident with your captain abilities?
I'd much rather get assigned to build a roller coaster for something.
Awesome.
I actually think that might be my job. Building roller coasters.
Okay, so
Megan.
do you think you could do the work and physical labor Charlotte does throughout the book?
Well, I think not, because I would not want to tell the captain anything, because I wouldn't be sure. Even though he's acting all nice, the evidence that I've been seeing him punish the other crew makes me think he's harsh. I don't want to tell him anything. He might do the same thing to me.
Right, that's true. So you might have negative consequences for just trying to do your job. Okay. Nani. N-A-N-I. Okay. What do you think life would have been like in 1832? Remember, this book took place in 1832, so what do you think life would have been like?
Probably would have been hard. Probably didn't have that much food or, like, I think it would just kind of be hard.
What about luxuries? No luxuries?
Well, maybe you get, if you're a richer person, you'd get luxury, but if you didn't have that much money, you wouldn't have money to do that.
That's a great
You'd
point.
have to save your money to buy food.
That's a great point. That's why they're called luxuries, exactly. Okay, Natalie. Would you have wanted to get on the ship?
Well, I would want to go home to my family, but I wouldn't, want to go on if I was the only girl, because it would just be hard and I would want to just stay in my cabin the whole entire time.
I know, I would be definitely nervous if I was around the opposite gender the entire time. So, Gabe, right? Gabe, how do you feel if you were stuck at sea for so long? They said it could be anywhere from 1 to 2 months, so I mean, if you don't know how long you're going to be out there, that's pretty spooky. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think I could handle 1 month, but after that I'd start to get like, just get me off of here.
Homesick for your mommy.
Really? I'll think a month. Maybe a week.
Alright,
Lizzie.
Lizzie.
Well, I mean, it's not like in a car where you just have to sit still. You can actually move around.
Think about a time when you were in an unfamiliar, unusual situation that made you feel uneasy. I'll give you just a second to think about that. How did you get through that experience? Have you ever been a new student?
Yeah, last year.
Okay, alright. How did you get through that experience?
Well, I know Ian's family, so that was sort of easy. They helped me through it.
Okay, awesome.
Probably enough first met at school.
So, Ian, on page 53, if you guys want to flip to page 53 real quick, they mentioned a jail, a brig, B-R-I-G. They mentioned a jail. Why do you think they mentioned that jail? That's a little bit of foreshadowing, a little bit of leading into the future. What's your prediction, Ian?
Foreshadowing, probably because, I think later, if she gets put on trial, either she has to go in there, or the stowaway is hiding in jail, or finally, if she said there were 6 people, and when there are only 3, or 5, then one could be a stowaway, and then maybe another person that was in the brig was, a person who had originally tried to do
I meant to mutiny against him and got put in the brig.
Right.
Yeah, but
So
Awesome.
Crane could be down there. Then the person.
James, your question. What would you do or how would you feel if you were on a ship without anybody you knew?
I'd be scared and nervous to kind of go around and meet people. I'm not that outgoing, so.
Okay. Charlotte must have had a hard time too, especially being a girl on a ship of rowdy, dirty looking guys and everything, huh?
scraggly guys.
One of the things that put
I like how you said because you're not very outgoing and stuff. It's a good point. You got to look at your own characteristics and qualities too. You know, if you're not very outgoing, you might want to really clam up and hide in that 4x6 cabin that Charlotte was hiding in. So, Emily, last one. We can kind of wrap this up a little bit. Predict what will happen next in the book.
Oh, you have to give me this question.
Oh, Emily's gonna get all serious.
Quick prediction, what's going to happen in the next couple chapters?
Okay, I think Kranich gonna come out, and I think maybe someone's gonna get killed.
Oh. And I would actually love quick predictions from all of you guys and what the next couple chapters is. Quick.
no idea.
No idea.
I think Charlotte might be attacked a few times, like a few knives in her rooms, a few pistols
Okay.
being shot at her, stuff like that.
Nani?
I think maybe Charlotte's gonna get she's gonna get stronger and intimidated.
Okay. Natalie?
I think the captain is gonna go in her room and take the dirt from under her mattress because he knows it's there.
Okay. You don't think he wants her to have it then?
No.
Okay.
He wanted her to have it.
But he might still go back and just take it later though. That's her prediction.
Might go.
Let's see, Gabe.
I'm thinking maybe one.
What's your prediction?
Well, the mutiny, I think is gonna. Well, if not end, I think it's gonna start.
Okay. Something's bound to happen with you. Lizzie?
I think Charlotte might kill somebody.
She talked about it. You're interested. Ian?
Maybe I think that one of the other crew would probably get to her area and get her dirt from underneath,
Uh-oh.
and then
Let him finish, guys.
if they find out, and then wait, let me talk. And then they will maybe kill somebody who's probably not on their mutiny thing. And then, with her dirt as evidence, then of course,
Blame her?
yeah.
CSI stuff. I love
Her
it.
dirt.
Okay, crime scene
Stole my
investigator.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Oh, okay.
That's you.
Do something. They're gonna kill somebody and then
Use her dirt.
frame her.
Okay.
And
All
use
right.
her dirt.
So now we're gonna round this lesson up, guys. Because I'm cutting into other time right now. So
Then maybe I'll say.
yes, one.
I would
You guys all have stuff in all your sections?
Yeah.
Okay. So here, let's see. Ladies first, because we're always ladies first. We'll start on the back end. We started on the.
Haha. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
I got my favorite color.
Ready?
I got my favorite one.
Orange.
Thank you.
All right. Since I have the directions, I do have the directions. Okay, journals. Has anybody ever had a journal before? Like Charlotte Doyle? Okay, just a show of hands. Okay, so Charlotte Doyle's journal is not like, dear journal, I'm feeling great today. She puts some real effort into what she's writing. So when you guys are doing this, you guys aren't going to just put I'm feeling bad today. Tell us why you're feeling bad. So, we already went over this. You've been a new student. We described what it was like. It was kind of scary. it's kind of like when Charlotte Boyle got on that new ship. She felt out of place. She had a few friends, very few friends. She had a bunch of new people. She was out at sea, which can be scary. Let's see, any other ideas on what Charlotte might have felt when she got on the boat? 2 ideas.
Probably adventurous because this would be a new adventure.
She did say that the last time she was on the boat, she was a child, so she's looking forward to it.
I sort of have to get along with these people because I'm going to have to deal with them for like a couple months.
Great. So let's list some situations in which you might be in a new place or in a foreign place. I got a couple for you guys right off the top of my head. School. You could be starting at a new school. You could be starting at a new job. You guys aren't going to be starting jobs for a while. You guys could be on another planet. You guys could go to another planet.
That'd be
And then everybody around you would be foreign. You guys could be on a new baseball or sports team, joining a new league, and then you're out of place, you have to learn everybody's name. Or you might just go to another foreign country. Yeah. So another foreign country. So what I want you guys to do is open up your things. There's a piece of paper in the back. Think of a situation in which you might have been out of place. I want you guys to use this journal right here to write a story in, describing how you felt. This journey or situation may be real or made up. Be sure to include a series of events that describes the beginning, middle, and end of your story. The story can be good or a fun story, but it also can be a story that has problems or challenges. Make sure to include some facts to describe situations, followed by your opinion on how that might have made you feel. So it's just going to be like a mini kind of like diary, journal and stuff. But like I want you guys to get really creative with it. You think about the other planet. Be like, hey, I'm going to Mars, and describe what you guys would see on Mars. I want you guys to really understand what Charlotte was going through. Yes.
Could it be like mystical, like fantasy, or does it have to be?
It can.
Yes! This is actually.
Booyah!
This might actually sound kind of funny. Like, I was already thinking about what type of job I was gonna get.
You're tired.
I'm already gonna get.
So talk about your job. You talk about your job in there. What it would be like being new there. New
Actually,
experience.
I was thinking of going like sort of business, like working at any place. Like designing roller coasters.
Yeah, I remember you
I just
mentioning
call them
that.
traveling.
Yeah.
Then it doesn't seem
Alright guys, let's hold it together. We got like 2 more minutes and then we're like all wrapped up. So does everybody knows what they're going to be doing, right?
Yeah.
So you guys are going to be starting a story. You guys don't have to write it. You guys can do like 10 or 12 days. You guys can do a half page for a day. It doesn't matter, but I would like a little bit of effort to it, Let's just get a little bit. And this isn't really official. This this is for the grade. This is what I would have you guys do for the assignment. But if you guys would like to do that, that would be awesome. And I would really collect those next week if you guys started them. Maybe like if you guys have a 5-minute free write, just write a page in there. Day 3 on our future journey and stuff. Of a situation that's new. So if you guys do that, I will collect them and I will read them all and I will probably have a great time with it. So these are yours to keep otherwise, but if not, I would, like I said, I would love to have them back on Thursday. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nuts, I'm starving.